Morena, welcome into the form, and a big day coming up here too as we look towards the two Group 1s across the Tasman. Out of Rosehill we do have the Golden Rose to look forward to, and a Group 1 from Sandown where we do have the Underwood Stakes where Zaki is the dominant favourite, but we do have Probabile and the Chosen One lining up in that race. Domestically, it's around the meeting for the Martin Jockey Club with the Metric Mile, the feature race to look forward to there. And of course we do have racing in the northern region out of Matamata. This is what you can expect coming up on the form this morning. First of all, we'll catch up with Bevan Sweeney to preview his program for the Martin Jockey Club and also have a look at the feature, the Metric Mile. We'll go to Matamata and we'll catch up with Andrew Scott to hear what he has to say about the team's chances. Informed trainer and Chrissy Bambry will join us to go through her team of runners and also touch on what it was a big weekend last weekend for the team. David Brown out of Melbourne will join us with all things elephant. We'll then touch base with Brad Gray to talk about Rosehill, and then we'll complete the form with Ben Ascari with his preview out of Sandown. Well, first of all, we're joined by Bevan Sweeney to talk about the meeting out of Awapuni and wet track conditions in front of us for the weekend, Bevan, but the Metric Mile will take centre stage.
It will be, P, and I think it's a really good running of this particular race. Bowden's put a lot of interest into the race really by flushing the weights down. Now, there's some very good horses down on the 53, and look, it would have to be my heart over my head saying Bowden can win with the 60.5 against some very good horses who are getting such a big pull in the weights. But then you look at his course record, and how many horses win 8 from 10 at Awapuni and seem capable enough on wet track conditions? It's probably going to be maybe a step past Bowden's best track conditions in that heavy range, much better on those slow track conditions. But I'm not wanting to say he can't, but look, the head says that it's more than likely he won't be able to do it. We have a lot of interest in the race. And can I say it's great to see Haratani and Tappy's One coming up from the south to take this particular race on. Tappy's One's in great form, and go back through his last 3 weights, 58, 60, 61, and gets him with 53 here. Puts him right in the mix, but probably the star emerging out of the Baker Forsman team is here, and that is Francesca, the mare by Ifraj, who has won the 4 of 7. This is her first real step up, so $3.30 into $2.80 BP. I'm not 100% sure about that. She's up against some very, very seasoned campaigners, but the way she won dominantly last time, in fact, the win before that on the rain-affected track at Tarapa was even better. So I think she's sure to handle the track conditions, and she has got a good turn of foot. I'm even more excited to see her on top of the ground. I think she's got so much ability. So I'm going to put her on top 10 of the Livy, but I don't think she's a bet for me at the 2.8. Tappy's One at 53 kilos comes into this beautifully. BP will handle the track conditions. Horse is flying. Chris Johnson does the riding. The gate's perfect by this point of the day, I'd imagine, on the wide bend. So he's in for second. Going to put Bowden in. Just can't leave him out at Awapuni. We know how good a horse he is. I think it's just a fitness run with a big weight at Te Araha. And then Quiz Kid, well, he might lead them for a long way. And I think there's a bit of money to say he will from the Phelan team. And they haven't missed in recent times. But look, you can say House of Cartier on its trial is a good player in this race. Dolcetto won't know himself with 56, and the blinkers go on him today. But look, I think Francesca is the headline act, albeit I think she's a little bit short in money price-wise.
Yeah, she is the real up-and-comer, isn't she? And deserved favourite, but like you said, wary around Bowden and Britannia and Tappy's One. Do you like one on the program as a standout, Bevan, and also a value bet?
Look, I think tomorrow when I give out the $100 spend, I'm going to be shopping some value BP. But look, one that I have spoken about on quite a few occasions is Floral Art. She was a horse I thought was a true wet tracker, and then all of a sudden at Wanganui and behind Tresette, she turned up and flew home on better ground, and then went to Hastings over 1,600 metres. So back from 2040 to the mile and hit the line nicely behind Communicate. I know that Peter was aiming to step her back up in ground and then have her ready to go. I thought it was going to be on the second day at the Bay. But he's chosen to back her up quickly here over the 2,200 metres. Thought it was a superb effort. You've got horses like Botti, Prince Leo, Colonoscopy, have all been in lower grade races, but performing well. But Floral Art's form stands out. Look, if Cinnamon gets the right track, And I'd want some more rain on the day, I think, to really suit him. I think he showed at Hastings that really when the tracks get that little bit better, then he's out of the mix. But he's going to get a heavy track to start. It probably brings him into the race at $13. I think it's probably a good price. But Floral Art, I think her form in that particular race stands out to me. So we'll go with her as the best.
Yeah, and Peter Didham's stables flying, of course, was what we saw on Thursday. Value charts?
I've got a few. We'll whip through them quickly. One horse to keep a really close eye on is Town Crier. It's in race number 6 on the program. This is a horse that was close up in behind a tissue at the end of last preparation. Has had a couple of trials, and it'll go 1,400 metres on Saturday. Track conditions are a question mark, but whatever happens on Saturday, you can certainly follow this horse through. We've got another one in Big Frank in race number 5. It's had just the one start. I thought it was a really good effort again. Stable flying. If he improves a tick, he'll be a big player in race number 5 at good money. And then my little sweetheart, right down the bottom of the book. Last horse in the book, race number 8, one horse called Zoe Satin. We missed when we put the money on BP a long time ago at Wanganui, and since that moment, she's paid some great prices to get us back into the positive. Gee, she was dominant at her most recent start. In fact, the last 2 have been exceptional. She has to take the step up, and I don't think she handled that puggy ground at Wanganui when she was beaten, but look, she's flying, and she's got a lot of stretch to her. She's an exciting prospect going forward. So 3 at value, and Floral Art is the best on the program.
Yeah, no, she looks worthy of a spec in the last. Zoe Satin at $6.50. Now, just quickly before we let you go, Bevan, we've seen the first day of the Hawke's Bay Spring Carnival. What were your takeaways from that, especially for the Windsor Park Plate? Because as we look at the market at the moment, we're a week out from that race. Of course, I may have still $2.20. There are some leading contenders that are in that market that are not going to be there. Look, he's very likely to start at $1.70, $1.80, isn't he, in that middle day?
Yeah, overall, it was just a great day for the Central Districts, wasn't it? And maybe, just maybe, the race day runs under the belt through Wanganui for Bella Conte, and Curry had a hit at it, Hawara just had the edge on a couple of other stables. So it'll be interesting to see how they follow through. Of course, I may have come off a trial preparation, so he was really good being taken on. And I would agree that he's going to shorten, and if he gets a decent draw, BP, he's going to be very, very short, because if he can get there easily with no attackers, it's going to take a hell of a lot of running down. Look, I think the one run out of the race that was a slight surprise, albeit Spring Tide went past my own mare as if it was standing still, so I should have been a little bit more favourable towards Spring Tide, who was exceptional on the day. I haven't spoken to Chrissy, but I imagine there's no reason it won't back up over 1,600 metres, because the horse is absolutely flying. They were a mile clear of the remainder of that field, BP. So really hard to see anything really coming into the particular race strongly and maybe overturning that result from day number 1. But look, Cox Plate is in the offering, isn't it? That's going to be some sort of challenge with the field that's going to draw for Full-Side Mad. But who's to say he won't? He never looks like the most outstanding horse in the code. He's a little bit frisky and a little bit bullish before the races, but when he gets out there, he's really proven himself now to be right at the top level. So I think you'll get a shorter price on race day, so maybe 2.2 is the way to get into it early.
Yep, and we'll catch up with Chrissy Bambry a little bit later on the show to find out what's happening with Spring Tide also. Thanks for your time, Bevan, and go well over the weekend.
Thanks, mate.
This opportunity now here on the form to join local trainer out of Matamata and Andrew Scott, of course, with Lance O'Sullivan. Andrew, got a couple of nice runners there at the program. We'll get to the first race of the day, and it being Amano and Platform. Amano, first of all, second up, wet ground, but up to 1,600 metres.
Yeah, look, his first run was okay there at Te Rapa. He, obviously well short of his best trip, and look, he's a stayer getting fit. Look, he might just have to go around tomorrow on the softer ground just to continue that fitness program of getting him out to a distance where he's going to be more competitive. But look, just stepping up a wee bit more in trip will bring him into the race a wee bit, and he can handle a little bit of soft ground. So he's probably a horse that you couldn't really leave out of your multiples. He could certainly be running on at the end of it, because he's coming up really well. He's certainly coming up the best he ever has. Now he's an older, stronger horse, and with whilst he might not be that competitive tomorrow, he's certainly going to be in for a good summer once he gets out round 2 corners.
Let's talk about platform. Things look to be setting up nicely for this horse. Operates well here. Yielding ground looks ideal. I thought it was a super run a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, he's racing really consistently, and he's the form out of that midweek race there has been actually quite strong, and he's he's drawn to get a nice little trip there. Tegan Newman's riding for the first time for us tomorrow, and she should hopefully get a nice sort of run there where he can camp away and hopefully do no work. Because just the other day there at Matamata areas, it's just in front a wee bit, just working the whole way, and just he got hunted down the last bit, and it's tough for a young horse to come straight through into 74 grade and really be competitive. But he's a horse that's had a long preparation. His fitness levels are incredibly high. He gets gallops really well on his home track in the soft ground, and whilst it's quite a fair step up to sort of Saturday grade, with the right sort of run, he should be a good each way chance. He's certainly looking at his condition and the way he's trained. There's no reason why he won't race well again tomorrow for sure.
Okay, Andrew, move on to your 2-year-old now in race number 2 in Spirit Heart. Lots to like about her trials, and her most recent trial at Cambridge, she was quick out of the barriers and was very professional with what she did there. Yeah,
look, she's Brendan. She's been quite a natural, 2-year-old filly. Look, she's from a fast Australian family, and she's everything she's done, she's been very natural. Her first trial, she got caught down in the west of the ground on the inside there at Ellerslie, and she just got caught by the stablemate. And then in a second trial, she showed vast improvement and really railed well, and got on the right legs, and she really trialled out well. So it gives us a good bit of confidence that the experience levels are there for her tomorrow. And she's from a family that has handled wet ground in the past, and we've got a bit of a hunch that she'll appreciate the give in the ground tomorrow. And her fitness levels are pretty high with a couple of trials under her belt now, and she's another one. Look, if everything goes away, and you never know, always in their first race, it's always a little bit hard to tell, but she's certainly an each way chance, and she's a filly that's only going to get better throughout the spring with the experience under her belt, and hopefully we can get her through to the millions.
And we'll move on to race 7 now in 2 Madison. She's raced well, hasn't she? She's a horse that keeps stepping up over the last few starts, and only narrowly beaten by race rival Barbara last time.
Yeah, absolutely. Comes out of, she's created an incredibly good form line this preparation. She's really got consistent and, really racing on well. So, look, obviously a bit of a change in track there tomorrow. She's going from Te Rapa to Matamata, and she's going to hit a pretty wet track. A bit of a question mark there, but at home all winter long, she's been galloping out on the course proper, and every time we gallop her out there, she really gallops well, and she seems to be quite adept on a home track there and in the heavy ground. Like, they galloped a couple out there this morning, and they said it's genuine heavy. So we've got 65 mils of rain, so it's going to be pretty testing going. But she's got a ton of residual fitness behind her, and she's on top of her game as far as her racing form is at the moment, and she was probably a little bit unlucky not to get the bob last start, and while she steps up to open grade, she's going to be a massive drop in weight for her, and that's a big aid in this sort of ground tomorrow, and carrying 53 kilos, it sort of really brings her into it. So she's probably our best winning chance of the day, the way she's trained and her form, and the way she sort of holds her condition, and really holding her appetite as well. So we're expecting her to race really well.
Right, Andrew, just before we let you go, Dragon Leap, he finished into 5th position with not all favours in the Tarzino. Have noticed that he has come out of the nominations for the next 2 legs at Hawke's Bay, and you've nominated for the Copeland's Mile. So just first of all, the run, and what's the path for him now coming up?
Yeah, well, look, we're really pleased. Look, he's been away for such a long time, and, we only had the opportunity of trialling him once going into it. It's always really hard to get them up to, Group 1 standard. And we're confident of running really well. His work leading into it was first class, and we think the horse is really flying. He's in for a really good season. Look, to be fair, he probably ran into ground that was just a little bit beyond him. Look, as a young horse, he struggled a little bit in the soft ground, and it showed a little bit in the run where he's just sort of halfway clambering in the ground a wee bit down the back, and then when they took off at the 600, he's got left a little bit flat-footed. Then obviously he got a wee bit held up, once he was looking for a run and he's had to duck down to the inside into the worst of it. But he's maintained a good gallop, and the main thing is we've got the show on the road with him. We've got him out, got him racing, and we're under no illusion now he's a 5-year-old gelding. He's going to take a wee bit to sort of get him back up to up to standard and sharp and racing well. So Lance was a bit keen to pull him out of the second leg. He said, just it's not really our style to take them back 2 weeks later after their first up run, and especially a trip away and this and that. So we're going to look to take him back the last day and run him in the open 14, the red badge, open handicap. Hopefully he gets in pretty well at the handicap, and hopefully the ground down there that day will be nice and true and firm, and we'll get a good line off him then. And he's pulled up well, which is the main thing. And then obviously, if he can race well and perform up to a good standard, would consider taking him down to the Copeland's Mile, and he's another race where hopefully he can get in, handily at the weights, and he's going to get his chance to really perform well down there on a big flat track. But we do believe he's in for a good season. It's just a matter of just getting a bit of racing into him and get the show on the road. But no, we walked away well satisfied after the weekend.
All right, Andrew, we'll let you go. Thanks for your time. All the best for the weekend coming up, and hopefully there's a winner amongst your 4 runners on your home track this weekend.
Thank you very much, Brendan. All the best.
Well, it's time now to head to the home of the Happy Chicken, and that is Foxton, and we're joined by Chrissy Bambry, who is certainly on fire with her team at the moment. Good morning to you, Chrissy, and I'm sure still on cloud 9 with what happened last weekend.
Yeah, look, it was an amazing day. Thanks. It's days like that we'll probably dream of, and to get those results at Hastings was pretty unreal, to be honest. But it just makes all the hard work and dedication of the whole team worthwhile, that's for sure.
I'm sure it does, and we'll talk about them very shortly, but we need to try and find out what will be winning this weekend out of Awapuni. You have 3 strong chances. Let's go to the race number 3 first of all, and Dubai's Moko. This is a horse who won last time to the race at Woodville on a heavy 11 over 2,000 metres and 65 grade. The step up to Saturday, what do you think of her chances?
Yeah, look, she's a mare that's always had plenty of ability, and we obviously started her probably a bit early in her career. But she's always shown us she's got a lot of ability, but she's been very wayward. I know when she won at Awapuni, her first start, she was like a drunken sailor up the straight. And so we've played around with a lot of gear on her and had blinkers and cheek burrs and all sorts of things. And we thought we'd ironed out a few of her kinks, and then she'd throw up another question for us. So the other day I just took all the blinkers off her and took all the gear off her, and that seemed to be actually the way to get her to settle. And she's usually a front runner, and we just thought we'd try to settle her, and she settled in behind beautifully for Charlotte, and really got the job done. So she's worked well this week, and I think even though it's a step up in grade, and obviously on Saturday I think there's a big possibility that she'd run in the first 3 again, definitely.
Yeah, okay then. All right. Well, if she backs up that win from last time, a chance at odds in race number 3. Let's move on to race 6 now. Chrissy, you've got Speed Call in the race, a horse that is coming into this race fresh. What are you expecting in this?
Yeah, look, he's a horse he'd gallop anything better than anything in the stable, that's for sure. And he's just had a few niggly little issues, and I think he's a very good galloper, and it might be a bit short of his best, but it's, we've had a lot of rain this week and it'll be pretty heavy. So it's certainly going to be more than a 14, feel like more than a 14. And like I say, he's a good galloper. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was running hard down the outside at the end.
Yeah, okay then. Well, let's move on to race number 7, the feature on the program, the Metric Mile. You do have Deerfield in the race, of course, on the back up from last weekend's Group 1 race, but this race certainly sits better for him, doesn't it, with where he's placed in the weights and the wet track and all those sort of things. So you see him as a live knockout hope?
Yeah, look, he's a funny old horse. I think he's getting a bit cunning, to be fair, and he's probably looking after himself a little bit, and that's in his work too. So he's just taken a lot longer to get fit than normal, and I sort of knew he wasn't 100% going into the Tarzino with his fitness wise, and so that was probably a good step towards his fitness that day. And he pulled up like he'd only had a track gallop. So with the rain about and the way he was sort of acting, we thought it was a good step for him. And at 55.5 kilos, he gets in at a really good weight, and the only time he's carried that sort of over a mile's been when he ran third to Melody Bell. So look, I think it's probably a good race for him weight wise, and if he decides that he still wants to be a racehorse on Saturday, I'd say he'll be pretty competitive.
All right then, well that's your team for Saturday. Let's chat about Belaconte and Spring Tide. First of all, Belaconte, terrific win. Gee, a brilliant ride, wasn't it? And everything just mapped out for you, a horse that you've had so much trust in and the ability, and it all came to the fore in the Gold Trail.
Yeah, look, it's always great when a plan comes to fruition, and Sarah's done a great job with this filly, and a lot of thanks goes to Charlotte O'Byrne. She did her in her early trials as well, and when we went to the stakes races to put a senior on, and Charlotte was great about it. She knew that was part of the parcel, and obviously she knows she gets other rides for the stables, so she's been a huge support. So that's great when they're like, they don't get a bit iffy when they get taken off. Yeah. But Sarah's still been galloping them and everything like that, and she knows the little filly like the back of her hand. And she actually said to me at Wanganui before the O'Leary, she knows she'll take any gap, and that was probably what she was thinking when she was standing up in the saddle at the 150 looking for room.
Well, definitely. Is the plan, everyone's got a good 3-year-old filly they want to get to Christchurch. So what's the plan to get to Christchurch in between, obviously, last weekend, November?
Yeah, look, I sort of look through the program, and it's sort of for people in the CD, it's probably a little bit harder to get their fillies. I sort of would like to go 1400 with her, obviously, before we go a mile in Christchurch, but I also want to not expose her too much to older horses or anything like that. So look, we'll just see how she pulls up, and if the track suits and she's well, we might even look at Hara for her. She won't carry much weight, and it'll be a 1400, so that might be the race that might fit in well sort of time wise to give her a run before Christchurch.
All right then, and of course Spring Tide nearly pulled off the big double for the stable. What were you thinking halfway down? You must have been thinking, this dream's about to come true. You looked very likely, didn't you? But then Callsign Mav, the Group 1 horse that he is, found a way to win the race and kick back. Yeah,
look, I know. I think if there's one jockey you don't want to be trying to get past in a Group 1, it's Jonathan Riddell. And Sarah did a great job on the horse, and again just had faith in him and knew what he had under the bonnet. And sort of 200 from home, I was pretty hopeful, to be fair, but for his first run in a Group 1 to measure up like that was pretty good.
Okay, what's the plan now? Because the horse is not nominated for next Saturday, so you'd like nominated for the Tarzino. When will you make that plan, and are you looking towards going to the Windsor Park Plate?
Yeah, look, Sarah's going to come in and gallop him for me tomorrow, and he's just had a really easy week on the treadmill this week, just to sort of make sure he bounces back, and we'll know, I think, tomorrow if he's still feeling that he's on his A game. And he tried his little hard out the other day, and so it was essential that he had a bit of an easy week. And look, I think while he's well and fit and things like that, if Sarah sort of gives me the okay, I think we'll be late nominating for the Windsor Park.
All right, Chrissy, we look forward to seeing possibly Spring Tide in the Windsor Park Plate. Once again, congratulations on what was a great first day of the carnival, and hopefully you've got some success coming your way on the weekend coming up as well.
Thanks, I really appreciate that.
Joined by David Brown out of Melbourne to talk about Elephant. And so far, David, we've seen this horse really step up to the mark. You must have been so pleased with his run in the Fian.
Yeah, over the moon with the way he's gone. He's he just keeps on improving the whole time. So, wrapped.
Look, it was a race where you drew an inside gate. There was so much talk about leading into the Fian, about, wanting to be maybe away from that inside part of the track. And I mean, he's ended up being beaten by a horse who's come from behind him up along the rail. And there was a lot of swoopers trying to get him. But boy, he was tenacious in what he was able to show there.
Yeah, although it was really tough to the line. I think it was probably wet enough for him too, that ground, to be fair. And probably a little bit of second up as well. I think he's improved more than this now. His coat's come through, and he'd been clipped, and all his hair around his face has started to fall off, and he's starting to change colour back to black now. So he's definitely improved in a way.
All right, when you go to the wide expanses of Sandown for a small field, and you also drop back slightly in distance to 1,500 metres, why was it that this race sort of suited best for him coming up?
Well, we sort of were. The reason we ended up going to the Fee because we weren't going to make it even into the 2-rack on other years. So we've ended up in a position now we sort of got 53.5 kilos, was what was sort of predicted anyway for the 2-rack. And if we go here, we sort of don't get hardly any points for the run, and that sort of puts us in good stead for 2 weeks' time and that as well, and gives us the best opportunity at a Group 1 with no weight on our backs.
Yeah. You spoke about that improvement as well, David. As to your eye, you really do believe that he's, furnishing into a horse that's, proven now with his run last time that, he deserved to have been in this high quality of grade of horse in Australia.
Yeah. I think he's taken a bit to come right through the winter, to be fair, and I think he's just starting to come there now, in his coat and the way he's doing and that. So I think there is improvement in him. So always nervous. So everyone's had owned horses, trained horses. Most of them always let you down at some point, and you're a bit disappointed. And he's never done that yet. So every time you go out there, you're always a bit nervous. Hopefully today's not going to be the day, but.
That's right. And you've always got to be a little bit, as you said, err on the side of caution because, they are horses and you never know what the situation is around the corner. But what with him though, David, is that he's just a natural talented horse, isn't he? I mean, he's had 6 starts for 5 wins, that very narrow second last time to the races. I want to talk about this race on the weekend. How do you see it panning out for him with the 58.5 kilograms over the 1,500 metres? What suits him best to be able to be winning this race at least?
It is a little bit of a tricky race because sometimes these smaller fields you end up with a little bit more tactics than just genuine racing with the bigger numbers in there. So I think the track shouldn't be too bad. I don't think we'll get too much rain in the next day or so. So I think it should stay around a 4, which will suit him very well. Tactics-wise, I think I'm just going to leave it up to Damien to put him in the best spot for him, really. And leave it up to him.
Well, we've got a runner on Sunday too coming up, David, at Mornington and Border Leicester. Now, this horse has been running a couple of really good races. Last start there over the 3,000 metres. We see Border Leicester in race number 1 on Sunday. Your thoughts there?
It's a bit stronger field than he faced the other day at 3,000 metres, so I sort of wanted to give him a run there, and then he'll go to the Valley on Friday night. There's another one of those 3,000 metre races that will suit him better, but if we just get him around there and have him finishing off strong, that should have him in pretty ready for the other event.
Yeah, okay. Well, what sort of you got in mind for him over the next sort of 6 weeks or so?
The main reason is probably just to get him to the Jericho. He's one of those horses he's a real one-pace grinder, but he just keeps on going, and you sort of seen that in the Tamanui Cup, he just keeps on grinding away. He's off the bridle from along from home, but just keeps on getting there, And that was our main idea, to sort of get him to the Jericho. He's got a few points there now, and he'll probably just keep on ticking towards that as our plan.
Yeah, nice horse to take with you in terms of, continue to just keep picking up checks in those races where, if you were racing here, you wouldn't be getting as much as you are for running a couple of placings so far. So it's certainly worthwhile the trip and leading towards that Jericho, as you said.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Like a horse like him, say, even when you're going and racing on those Saturday races and you're picking up $2,500 and you're not paying any nominations or entry fees, it's quite a big difference for him along the way, I think he's won about 12 here already, I'm just ticking away through the bits and pieces. So I just sort of mainly aim for those 3,000 metre races. They definitely drop away a bit. Those second class ones, they drop away a fair bit, so you can sort of pick and choose through them reasonably well.
And just go back one step, David, before we leave you there about Rhinoceros. Ran in the Derby trial over 1,800 metres at Flemington on Wednesday. What did you take from his run in that race?
It was a funny race for him. Few points probably. He'd be better off when he gets the lead. I think he settled there where we had to try and slide him in to see if he would, and they slowed it up a fair bit, and then they've kicked from the 800 as well and run a good solid time from the 800 to the last 200, and he's been popped out and been 3 wide with no cover. So he's been tough through the mile, but he's probably going to be better if we drop him back in distance to around that mile and let him do his own thing. When he won at Sandown, he was quite impressive, and I think he might find that just a bit far for this in his career, whether he sees that distance or not, but it might be a bit all come too fast for him getting up over those distances.
All right, we'll keep tabs on Rhinoceros. Well, David, thanks for your time. We look forward to seeing Elephant once again. He really is building a fan base on this side of the Tasman, and I'm sure in Australia, just for his name alone, but also now for his ability on the track. All the best coming up, David.
Thank you.
Take this opportunity now to link up with Brad Gray, and good race day coming up. This isn't it? The Golden Rose to look forward to, where Animo is read figures as we gear up for what is going to be a super race day.
Yeah, it certainly is, and the weather's cracking as well to boot. So good day's racing there. You're right, the Golden Rose is the feature, and Animo is all the rage. He's been heavily backed, and I think a lot of punters are anchoring him in multis. He does look the horse to beat, doesn't he? Everybody saw his win in the run to the Rose, and although he didn't really smash the hands off the clock and he didn't beat them by a margin, he did go into that off a very soft trial. He had a well-documented setback going into it, so you'd think he can only go on from that, so it's hard to see anything from that race turning the tables on him. I'm not telling you anything that the market isn't telling you, though. He's certainly the horse to beat. I think outside of him, you're probably looking at a horse like Artorias. I think of all of the horses in the race that could potentially match him on raw ability, it is this bloke. He hasn't won this time back, but he's got a big motor. We've seen when he's at his best, he's pretty dynamic, and he's actually beaten Animo in the past. So I imagine the tactics for him will be pretty simple. Get on Animo's back, and if he's good enough that last couple of 100 metres to peg him back, then so be it.
I know when we spoke a couple of weeks ago leading into the run to the Rose, you were very lukewarm on Animo, and obviously the market reflected that too, because he was drifting in the marketplace. But with what we have seen from that race and where things are at for tomorrow's race, do you still have him as your top pick?
Yeah, I do. I was a little bit soft on him first up. That makes the win even better, doesn't it? You're right, he was a big drifter there. I think he got out to $354 late if you waited and took that price. I think it's more of a reflection of his opposition here. So if he happens to win there tomorrow, he'll become the shortest price winner of the Golden Rose in its 19-year history. Now, is that vindicated? I think you've got to more look at what he's up against and where he sits in terms of those horses, as opposed to letting history sway you. So I think he's going to springboard off what he did there first up, and coming out of a key form race, it's very hard to be against him.
Yeah, that is the best reference, isn't it, over the years? So isn't it the run to the Rose into the Golden Rose?
Yeah, it certainly is. And a lot of horses have done the double in recent years. Godolphin have got a great record in the race too. So generally when they line up a big gun, they're very rarely beaten.
All right, let's move on to the race we're certainly interested in here in New Zealand with on Trivier. That is the Golden Pendant Group 2, 1,400 metres. And, well, she did what we were all hoping for anyway with what she did last time to the races at Kembla Grange.
Yeah, it was a pretty cosy win, wasn't it? She certainly didn't leave her back as many moments of concern. She just settled midfield beautifully. And I thought the best part of her race was probably that last 50 metres or so. I thought she was going away again on the line. So that says to me that 1,400 metres second up is perfect. The little query here being where she gets to on the map. I don't think it's quite as straightforward as first up. That said, you've got James McDonald on board, so he'll sum it up in the first couple of 100 metres. As it stands, we're only a field of 9 at the moment. She's probably going to have to settle maybe a pair or two further back than what we saw first up, and hope that a horse like Vangelic rolls along at a genuine enough tempo to give her a shot. But I think all being equal, she is the best horse in the race. Just with that little query around the map, I actually thought it was interesting what Jamie Richards said during the week as well, in terms of this horse historically. they've spaced the runs. Here she is backing up within a fortnight. So it'll be interesting to see how she reacts to that too.
Yeah, well, it certainly will be. And gee, if she gets a drop of rain too, it's a horse that's electric and wet ground too, is on trivia here. Let's move on now to the Gloaming Stakes, which is race number 9. Gee, high interest around this race. The Profondo was able to win that midweek race where there was so much going into that race at Kensington on the 1st of September. Is a loose favourite at 420. We've seen money here for Head of State also. How did you line them up in this one?
Yeah, I imagine Head of State is the Chris Waller, James McDonald factor there. When punters are in doubt, they're the go-to combination. But this is a really tricky race. I found this terribly hard to work out. I spent way too long on it. And then invariably, you come back to the favourite, don't you? So I've gone with Profondo. The two factors being that he's a horse that's going to get the right run. And the Rosehill 1,800 metres, it's not a long run to that first turn. And they're always turning because there's 3 turns over this track and trip. So I think it's imperative that you draw well and find the right run in the race. And then second criteria I looked for was a horse with upside. And there's no doubt Profondo has enormous upside. He's only had the one start. He only scrambled home in a midweek race there, which of course doesn't scream group winner at his next start. But I think he can only improve off that. And he certainly gets the setup. And I think the right opposition in terms of they're all kind of, you're just waiting for one of these horses to really jump out of the ground and stamp themselves as the horse to beat for the spring champion. So I'm with him, but yeah, it's a race that's very, very tricky.
Just wanted to mention Money from the Sky. This was the horse who started favourite in that Profondo race, and there was everyone saw that the lightning run first up when flooding home into second. What do you make of that horse's chances, and obviously what actually happened last start of the races?
Yeah, good question. There was nothing in the stewards report that offered any excuse, but the fact that Mark Newnham's kept doing work suggests that he's pleasing him at home. You're right, he savaged the line there first up in the manner of a horse of really good ability. Heavily back there against Profondo, but he just didn't fire a shot. I think it had something to do with being wide on the track that day. He certainly wanted to be probably close to the speed and close to the rail. Kenzo's played a little bit like that over the past couple of months. So I guess you can offer an excuse there, but he hardly ran past a horse. So if he does happen to make the field, he's got to be some kind of hope.
Yeah, second on the ballot in the Gloaming Stakes. All right, let's move on to race 5, the Heritage Stakes, 1,100 metres. We have interest in the race with Sword of State. How did you line them up in this one, Brad?
Yeah, it's another fascinating race. So you've got to assess 2 key horses here coming off minor setbacks. One of those being your Kiwi 2-year-old champ, Sword of State. Now, what do we do with him here first up? I think his 2-year-old form says he measures up in a race like this. There's no doubting his talent. Jamie Richards, I did note with interest throughout the week, said that he'll improve with the run. Obviously, it wasn't ideal, the fact that he did have a setback, but he's pretty sure that he'll measure up on class. But yeah, pretty even race. And then Home Affairs is the other one. He, of course, was going to run a couple of weeks ago in the run to the Rose. He was on a Golden Rose prep, but I think he had a spiked temperature. He certainly came out on vet certificate, and here he is a couple of weeks later, back to 1,100 metres. And I know that the Coolmore slot holder there in the Tab Everest are considering him as maybe a prospective runner. So if he runs well, he puts his name up in lights. I've gone with Mautai at a bit of odds. I think it's a race where you can look a little bit wide. Now, there is a lot of speed here, but you see so often Rosehill 1,100 metres firm deck that these speed horses can just get running and just keep running, and it's very, very hard for the back markers to come into play. So I thought he comes out of the 2 right races in the San Domenico and the run to the Rose, dropping back to 1,100 metres, I think suits, and he did a stack of early work there in the run to the Rose last time out. So I think there was good merit in the race. So yeah, I'm with him. Casey Fogden trains, I should say, the Rosebud and San Domenico, not the run to the Rose. So they've kept him over the sprint trips, and I think Tim Clark is the perfect booking for him because we know how good he is at rating these front runners.
Okay then, right. Best in value now, Brad. What have you found throughout the program?
Yeah, the best of the day for me comes up in race 6, the Shannon Stakes, race 6, number 1, Imaging. Now, this horse drops back in grade to Group 2 company here. 9 of his past 10 runs have been in Group 1s. He was outstanding first up. He should have finished on the heels of Mwanga and Very Elegant. Then he went down to Melbourne and ran a handy race again in another Group 1. So back in grade, I think the scenario for him is absolutely ideal. 1,500 metres, home deck, James McDonald and Drawn Barrier 1, where they can just smother him up and he'll get the last crack. Love Tap is the favourite in the race, but I think he's a bit of a shaky favourite, given he comes out of a benchmark 78 and jumps straight into a Group 2. As far as value, I think there's a couple of bets we can have across the day at a little bit of odds. The first of those being in the Tab Highway, Class 2 handicap, race 2, number 10, Chase My Crown. She was luckless there at Newcastle last start. I think she fits into a race really well like this. And the Midway, race 3, race 3, number 3, Ruby Tuesday, for Gary Portelli and Tim Clark. She comes out of better grade races than this last prep, and now she's finally learnt to jump. She's putting a couple of wins together.
All right, Brad, we've jotted those all down. Hopefully there's a winner or two there for the punters here in NZ. Go well over the weekend.
Fingers crossed, thanks.
Joined now by Ben Ascari to talk about the racing out of Sandown. And Ben, Group 1 racing to Sandown with the Underwood Stakes, just the 5 horses to look out for, but so much interest around Zaki.
Yeah, exactly. So the Cox Play favourite, probably the best horse in Australia between 1,800 to 2,200 metres, or in Australasia at the moment, in Zaki. But he's got a test because the mare that you guys know so well in Probabil's heading that way. And I think she really makes the race in the sense that he can't just loaf around and win without producing a good performance, Zaki. He's going to have to roll. And I think it makes it fascinating because he's the likely leader. I think probably will be camped on his back. They don't want to go too slow. If Craig goes too slow on Zaki, then maybe that would play into Probabil's hands. So we know how sharp she is at 1,600 metres. I think Zaki will win, but having Probabil in the race certainly makes things interesting.
It does, doesn't it? And with her being obviously on the quick backup from last week, interesting to hear James McDonald though. He's come out and said that for Craig Williams, this is as straightforward as a sit and steer job.
Yeah, well, he's a serious horse, Zaki. What he did first up was frightening for his rivals. The turn of foot that he showed at 1,400 metres. I thought if he was going to be vulnerable, it would be at 1,400 metres, and he'd only get better into the preparation. The little query for him is second up with bigger targets in store later in the preparation. So perhaps he could be just a tad vulnerable. But I actually expect he will have the likes of Very Elegant's measure in a Cox Plate. If there's going to be a danger, it might be something like a Gold Trip coming from overseas. But the way he's going, even that seems unlikely.
All right. Well, throughout the day, Ben, is there some races and some horses that we're keen to have a bet on?
Yeah, betting wise, there's a couple of races I like. Race 3, Lena's Legend, is currently around sort of the $3 mark. It's going to depend on whether Sandy Prince comes out. There could be some deductions there, but I like Lena's Legend in the third race. He's a horse that won his maiden effortlessly first up. He then went to Sandown and won pretty well again in strong time. He's the Danny O'Brien stable. I think he'll be on speed and maybe even put his hand up as the second seed behind Animo for the Caulfield Guineas following Saturday. So Lena's Legend's a horse I think is going to be really hard to beat in the third race. And then we go to the 6th race on the program, which is an open handicap over the 1,800 metres. And a horse that I'm a bit annoyed at myself that I haven't been on the past couple and found him at bigger odds in Floating Artist. I'm a bit late to the party, but we'll jump on this time around. I think he's really well placed. He'll put himself on speed again, like he did at Flemington last time out, where he beat a pretty good horse in Defibrillate, and he finds a similar style of race here, if not even a weaker race. There's no horses like Defibrillate that he has to contend with here. I think Floating Artist will be hard to beat again.
All right, just quickly too on another Kiwi that's lining up there, I want to get your thoughts around, and that's Elephant. Of course, he ran so well in the Fian last time to the races. How do you line up his chances in this race? 1,500 metres, obviously, with the 58.5, and with more sort of serious targets coming up for him in a race like the Toorak. How do you line him up for the Saturday's race?
Yeah, with difficulty. I've got him on top. I think he's the horse to beat. And I think the reason he's the horse to beat is he's probably got a tactical advantage over his main rivals in the betting, which are Cherry Tortoni and Harbour Views. I expect Elephant to be ahead of them in the run. It doesn't look like being an overly fast run race. Ziegfeld will probably control it from the front. Elephant camped in behind him. And I think that's going to give Elephant an advantage over Cherry Tortoni and Harbour Views, particularly if it is a slowly run race. But it's a tough one because all of those three key chances in the betting are all probably headed towards a Toorak handicap with bigger targets in store, and I don't think any of them want a gut buster. But yeah, I'm leaning the way of Elephant. There's no real spoil at the price, but I'm leaning his way given his potential tactical advantage over his key rivals.
All right, we've jotted down a couple of key winners there for the weekend. And of course, before we let you go, Ben, you're a Melbourne D's man, and I know that you really can't wait for the AFL Grand Final coming up Saturday night. How are the nerves?
Yeah, not well. They're not going too well at all. It's going to be a nervous wait until the ball is bounced, and really we're going to be either shattered and disappointed or over the moon that the 57-year drought for these Melbourne supporters, certainly my whole life, I'm only 35 years old, but hopefully they can get it done. They've been the best side all year. I think the Dogs have probably been the other best side all year, but let's just hope that the fact that we've only had one game in 4 weeks doesn't work against us.
We'll be cheering on for you, mate. All the best on the punt as well, Ben, and thanks for your time.
Thanks very much for having me.
Let's wrap the show now as we have a look back at the best bets here on The Form. And there's plenty of opportunities across the TAB to have a punt too, because we do have the guaranteed quaddie of $30,000 for the meeting at Awapuni and also out of Matamata on the late quaddie, and 16 bonus back races on the first 4 races out of Sandown, Rosehill, Martin and also Matamata. You can look out for those on tab.co.nz or via the app. That's us here at The Form. A big thanks to all the guests. We'll catch you next week.